What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. I am so excited about today's video because I'm going to be sharing with you 3 all-natural pest control methods for ants. Now, ants are something that a lot of people just tend to ignore. They don't really notice until they become a problem. And then when they do become a problem, they don't know how to get rid of the problem. And so these 3 ways are going to get rid of ants effectively and inexpensively. You know, I am not someone that wants to run to the store and buy some super potent chemicals that I really don't feel safe even using around the garden and also spending a ton of money on them. You know, ants are something that are very easy to control if you get up on them, you stay persistent with them, and and you just don't deviate from it. If you let them take hold, they will take hold. They're very aggressive with their their colonization. And so what we have to do is just kind of nip it in the bud right away and make sure that we stay on it because, like I said, they are very persistent. And if we do that, we can effectively control ants for pennies. So I really love these methods. I'm excited to talk about them because ants are something we get asked, I'd say at least 10 or 15 times a day. It's probably one of the most common questions we get, at least this time of year, because during spring ants are not really evident, but during summer is when the food shortages become more evident and they become more aggressive and get ready to go dormant for the winter. So they're stockpiling all that food. They'll come into your house, they'll get into your garden, they'll start expanding their colonies, and it just becomes more of an obvious issue during the heat of summer, which is why a lot of these questions start cropping up right around this time of year. The first thing I do want to talk about, though, are the problems that ants can pose. You know, obviously they're a super nuisance in the house. They're annoying to have, just even around the house in general, but in the garden specifically, which is kind of the topic of today's video, they can wreak a lot of havoc. We had ants that colonized our raised beds, and this is one of the worst problems you can have. You know, if a stray ant strolls into your garden, which obviously they will, don't worry and don't freak out. But when a colony of ants decides to take up residence in your raised bed or around your raised beds, that's when we need to take control and have a handle on the issue, because they can really pose some serious problems. The first one is with seed germination. Seeds are rich in protein, fat, and they're just a food source in general for ants. I've seen them carrying away lettuce seeds, grass seed, they've even eaten bean seeds. And so you need to be able to control the ant problem, because if you put down fresh seed, if you're starting anything from seed, they will consume that seed, they'll take it back, they'll stockpile it in their nest, and then you'll have very spotty germination. The next problem is they over-aerate the soil. When ants make a colony, they make tunnels throughout the soil. These tunnels contain a huge amounts of air that plants just are not used to. And the plant roots will actually touch those tunnels and then turn. And what the problem is that ants really love to make tunnels around plant roots because of the fact that the roots hold onto that soil, and it prevents their colony from collapsing in on itself, giving them a little more security. It's like, it's basically like the foundation of your house and, the framework of your house. It helps kind of hold the house together, all those 2x4s. So essentially the 2x4s of the soil are plant roots. And that's specifically why a lot of people will plant grass where there's erosion, because the roots hold on to that soil that will erode away. The third problem that ants pose in the garden are they bring aphids. Aphids are a soft-bodied green insect that basically sucks the life out of your plants. They actually feed on the undersides of the leaves, sucking all the sugars that the plant is creating through photosynthesis as a food source, and then as a byproduct, they excrete what's called honeydew. Honeydew is a sweet substance, and the ants take advantage of that sweet substance as a food source. So what they do is ants will carry aphids up to the plant, basically as a miner, and then they will basically say, okay, I got you up to the plant, now you get me food. And this is a symbiotic relationship that the ants and the aphids have. However, it's a very negative thing for your plants, because not only are the ants then encouraged to live near the plants, but they're also bringing aphids up, which are killing your plants. So it's a double negative. And so that's why we really need to take care of ants in the garden. And the fourth and final reason why ants are not good in the garden specifically is because ants eat fungus. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, Luke, isn't that doing me a favor? I don't like blight. Blight's a fungus. That's correct. Blight is a fungus. Powdery mildew is a fungus. However, However, there are good funguses and bad funguses, and the good funguses that you want are located in the garden around your plant roots. It's called mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is a fungus that attaches to plant roots and helps to mine minerals, as well as increase the root system, water resistance, drought tolerance. It is just an amazing thing to have attached to your plant roots. Legumes specifically will form them naturally. They attract the Rhizobium bacteria to the root system of the beans. That's why when you pull up your beans, you'll see these little balls. That's Rhizobium that actually will form in nodules on the roots. And the thing is that it also is, if you inoculate your bed, like we use Trifecta Plus, it has it in there, but if you inoculate your bed, or you use a really super good, rich, organic matter compost, that will have some mycorrhizae in there, and that will attach to all of your plant roots, whether it's onions, zucchini, tomatoes, peppers, it really doesn't matter. It will actually attach to those plant roots as well. And the issue is that those ants will come in and actually feed off of that fungi. So you have reduced amount of fungus in your soil, which then reduces the amount of nutrients and just health that your soil has. So those are 4 reasons why ants are a complete no-go in our garden, and now we need to get rid of them. The first thing we need to do is locate their home. As you can see, we have a trail of ants, and the trail actually leads right up here into these dead patches. This dead patch is where they actually decided to make a colony. There's 2 colonies in this bed here, and what we have to do is, once we've located where they're coming from, the source, we need to treat this with our actual pest control methods. Now, the reason why you can't just spread these control methods willy-nilly is because they need to be treated at the source. If you spread them around willy-nilly, they will not have an effect. If you just see ants in the garden and you see a trail of them, that's fine. You have to find the source. They're all coming from the source. That's what the trail is there for, is it's actually a pheromone trail that one ant will lay, and it makes basically a train track. So what you have to do is you follow that train track back to the source to find where the ants are coming from. You have to go at the source, because if you just treat the train track, well, then you've done nothing. So the whole purpose behind these 3 methods are essentially source treated, meaning they're going to be effective. The last thing you want to do is just waste time and materials by treating a problem that's not even really where the problem is located. So just keep that in mind, find the source, and you'll fix the problem. And here we go. Here it is. You can see there, anthill number 1, and here's anthill number 2. These are the 2 anthills that are wreaking havoc in our bean bed. I'll tell you what though, you do really have to be careful when you're treating an ant problem and you're sitting on the bed that has the ant problem. You might get some ants in your pants. I had a couple crawling on my leg earlier. The first one is one that I don't have in my hands, and that's because it's the most readily available, and it's actually your hose. Now, the issue is that this method is not really effective for in raised beds because of the fact that we have plants here. It's called flooding. Now, if you flood the bed, or if you flood the source, they cannot keep colonizing, and so they end up moving. Ants don't like places of basically low area, because that's where water settles. It floods their tunnels, it collapses their tunnels, and also ants can't breathe. So they end up leaving to find higher ground. The second natural ant control method is cinnamon. Now, cinnamon is a super inexpensive spice you can get at any grocery store, even get a giant bottle of it if you really have a problem. But the thing with cinnamon is it's super effective if you have ants that are mining fungus. Cinnamon is antifungal, and so when you sprinkle it around the whole of the tunnel where the ants are coming and going, it essentially will kill any fungus in that area, and they'll lose their food source, so they'll have to move. Now, this is something that works only if the ants are currently mining fungus. A lot of times ants are out scavenging. They're trying to find dead insects. They're trying to find honey from your beehives, or just a sugar source in general. A lemonade you left out 2 weeks ago or something like that. But this still is very effective. We found this does work. You have to use it pretty copiously, and so I'll show you how much we use. And it's something that, try it. It might work. It's worked for us in the past, but it doesn't work all the time. It just depends on what the ants are doing at that current stage. And you also have to make sure too that you don't have any rain. This, if it gets wet, really loses a lot of its potency. So during the dry season, the hot and dry season, I find this is the most effective than if you did it like in springtime when it rains a lot, because once it gets wet, it just pretty much washes away. So let's use the cinnamon now. So all we're going to do is just take the cinnamon and use a copious amount of it. Completely cover not only all the anthill, but the surrounding area as well. Nice thick layer of it. Make sure to cover the hole up, and that's all you have to do. And the final all-natural ant control method that we use, definitely the most effective of them all, one we go to if nothing else works, is borax and sugar. Now, borax is all natural. It's just boron and sodium, and it's commonly used as fabric softener. However, it's very effective at killing ants. However, a lot of times people make it too runny. They add too much water. What you want to do is, we made this up in our kitchen. It's super simple. All we did was we added 1 part sugar to 1 part borax. Now, the reason why you can't just leave it in its dry granular form is because the ants will just pick out, they won't readily eat the borax. They'll just pick out the sugar and you'll just give them a food source. So what you want to do is add just enough water to make it a paste. Once it is a paste, they can actually carry that paste back to the anthill and feed the rest of the ants with it. If you make it too much of a liquid, what can happen is they'll actually drink the liquid and it ends up killing them too quickly. They don't even make it back to the anthill in time. And so what we want to do is make it a paste, and it also helps if we apply it right at the source, because that way the ants are not carrying it a long distance. They're getting it and they're taking it right down and back into the colony, rather than applying it 20, 30 feet away where we see the ants, see those train tracks, those ant trails. You can treat those ant trails and it will basically just bring more ants out there, and the colony will keep sending ants out to the sugar source, and the ants just won't make it back. So while it's effective, it's not nearly as effective and quick as putting it right at the source where the ants are going to swarm it, because ants are advantageous. They'll take advantage of a food source that's much closer rather than far away. And so feed them right at the source this sugar and borax paste, and what they'll do is they'll take it, carry it down, feed the ants, hopefully feed the queen, because once you feed the queen dies, can't lay any more eggs, and the colony is pretty much toast. So this is a very effective method, and it's very natural. So there you go, super inexpensive. This might cost a couple pennies. The cinnamon might cost a couple pennies, and the water might cost a couple pennies, or free if you have well water, or a couple pennies if that well uses electricity. I know how you guys get. You guys are always hitting me with all the fine details. I got you this time. So either way, all 3 of these methods are all natural, and they only cost pennies. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm having fun in the garden today. I hope you guys are as well. I'm going to apply this to the beds now, and what we're going to do is we're just going to put it in like a paste, just drizzle it right around the hole. They'll come out, they'll feed on it, they'll take it down, problem solved. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to subscribe if you're not yet already. Throw a like up there if you enjoyed this video. Share with a friend if you think they'd enjoy it as well. And we'll catch you all on tomorrow's episode. Grow big or go home, everyone. Bye.